Welcome to Sippin' Tales. My name is Sherrilyn Dale. If you're new to my channel, I share true crime cases with the emphasis being that these are true stories. They're not just stories, they are true. There's a whole family behind these and they're very heavy. Today's case is no exception, and one that kind of emphasizes those emotions a little bit more, as family and friends of the victim that we're going to talk about today have been interviewed to help put this case together. We are going to get right into it. Before we do, please allow for a quick tone shift, as Swoop would say, for a quick message about today's sponsor. Thank you to our sponsor, Beam. I am already salivating just thinking about the dream powder in my little cup of hot cocoa that I'm going to get tonight, and looking at the clock, trying to count down the hours of when that gets to happen for me. I say it in every video that we have Beam in, but I just cannot reiterate enough how amazing their dream powder is. We've got new people coming on the channel every day, so if you haven't heard of Beam or their dream powder, basically the best way I can explain it is a healthy cup of hot cocoa that is packed with all of the best ingredients to help you get the best night's sleep. There are tons of benefits from a good night's sleep, including increased focus, boosted energy, improved moods, reduced stress, better skin, supported immune response. The list is long and beneficial. Beam delivers this through an array of flavors and formulas. If you are in the US, you are so lucky because you can have the CBD powder. Us in Canada, we have the non-CBD formula. Non-CBD works so tremendously for me that I cannot even imagine how much more effective the CBD is if it's something that you enjoy and you can tolerate. I would definitely suggest trying to check it out, because I just love a good CBD product. But even if you're into non-CBD, don't you worry, because from what I can personally attest to, super effective. Brent and I look forward to our cup of dream every single night. We both rave about it to everybody we talk to. Seriously, if you were to meet our friends and family, they would absolutely be able to attest that we have talked to them about Beam and how delicious it is, how effective it is, and that it's only 15 calories. It's like a guilt-free, beneficial bedtime snack. Now, if you've been wanting to check them out, I highly recommend doing so ASAP. I know that it feels like fall has just started, but it's almost time to say bye to seasonal favorites, pumpkin spice and mint chip. I'm hopeful that the pressure to bring them back next year will work, but until then, this is the last chance to get those flavors. They're going to be gone at the end of the month. We are recording in October, so October 30th, you will not be able to order them. Now, they are already sold out of apple cider donut and the non-CBD version of mint chips, so seriously, run, do not walk. You can subscribe and save 20% plus an additional 15% and a free frother when you click the link in my description and use code Sherrilyn, or go to their website shopbeam.com/SherrilynDale. That's up to 35% off the original price. And like I said, only hemp-free flavors are eligible for international shipping. Do not let that deter you, though. If you're like, oh, I really want a CBD formula, trust, okay? Just trust. Once again, you can check out everything at shopbeam.com/SherrilynDale. I cannot wait to also hear you rave about them as much as I do. I know October is spooky season, but it is also National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and my wonderful friend and research assistant Sheridan brought this case to me that we're going to talk about today that needs that awareness and support. Something I want to make very clear is that everything in this video is alleged. The suspect in this case has not been found guilty in the court of law. Trial has been postponed multiple times, and currently, as of today, October 17th, trial is scheduled for November 6th, 2023. Today we are talking about Sara Elizabeth Hanson, who, when she was only 25 years old, was allegedly murdered by her boyfriend, Garrett Benson, while on a weekend getaway. On Friday, August 21st, 2020, at the Margaritaville Resort Casino in Bossier City, which is near Shreveport in Louisiana, what was supposed to be one last weekend getaway to close out the summer, which was a eventful summer. It was summer of 2020, schmovid times. This turned out to be Sara's final adventure. Sara was to begin her fall semester at the University of Arlington on Monday, August 24th, 2020, but instead her family would be left without their princess and a million questions, most of which remain unanswered. We're at the 3-year mark at this point. This case is a firm reminder of the pain that family, friends of victims can go through, not only just because of the event itself, but sometimes what can feel like a miscarriage of justice. It's also a heartbreaking reminder that the ones we love the most and trust to protect us can be capable of unthinkable things. Sara Elizabeth Hanson was born on March 10th, 1995 to her parents Trisha and Ken Hanson in Fort Worth, Texas. The day Sara was born, her mom witnessed firsthand a moment that to this day remains one of her favorite memories. It was when Sara's big brother Patrick, who was 3 at the time, held his new baby sister for the first time. And with his dad by his side, Patrick looked at his cousin and he said, "Mikey, look, isn't she cute?" Sara was the youngest girl on both sides of the family. Between her brother Patrick and her cousins, she was surrounded by boys. Then when her parents divorced and both remarried, she gained 3 stepbrothers. So it makes sense why the family lovingly referred to her as everybody's princess. Growing up, Sara and her family spent most holidays at Lake Cherokee, and it's here that her love of water began. Her family describes her as a true water baby, just zero fear. And a perfect example of this was when Sara was only 2 years old. She decided that she wanted to jump off the double deck into the lake, and everybody's kind of like on pins and needles, nervous, but they fastened up her life jacket. Her dad's waiting for her in the water. Her mom's standing beside her, and off she went. Her family said it was the last time that she did it that summer, but the fact remains she had zero hesitation and no fear of trying something new. When Sara was only like 3 and 4, she loved to ride passenger like in the front of the wave runners, whether she was driving with her mom or her dad, and she would insist that they go full throttle, which always scared her mom, Trisha, but it just showed that Sara was truly just like the epitome of fearless. Another place she exhibited that fearlessness was on the soccer field. She fell in love with soccer at a very young age, and typically she was the smallest on her team, but nonetheless she played defense. So it just kind of showed that she was like, I'm out here, I'm tiny, but I'm Sprite, I got this. She was always somebody that liked to give it her all. She liked being active, running, and even participated in track. One of the qualities that Sara possessed that her loved ones still hold on to this day, though, is her heart and the desire to serve others, which began at a very young age. She was raised in the Methodist church. She sang in the choir and was always first to participate in the annual nativity play each year. And when she was old enough, she thoroughly enjoyed babysitting children in her community. The kids loved her. She had that unspoken bond that just drew kids in, made them feel safe, heard, and taken care of all at the same time. The kids even referred to the neighborhood park as Sara's park because that's where Sara would always take them. Growing up, she just continued being, kind of like a community favorite in the Fort Worth community through high school and college. After graduating from North Crowley High School, she went on to earn an associate degree from Tarrant County College with a 3.9 GPA, and she was currently a full-time pre-nursing student at the University of Arlington. She was working towards an RN degree with the ultimate goal of becoming a pediatric ICU nurse, which to those who knew and loved Sara was not a shock at all. While out celebrating St. Patrick's Day at a local Irish pub in 2019, Sara was introduced by mutual friends to a guy named Garrett Benson, and from that night forward, the two were described as inseparable. Garrett Michael Benson was born on October 17th, 1995 in Fort Worth, Texas, to his mom, Michelle, and dad, Todd Benson. His younger brother, Griffin, entered the world 2 years later in 1997, which completed the family of 4. I would describe the Bensons as affluent, successful. In early 2012, they moved into a beautiful, brand new 4-bedroom, 4-bath, almost 5,000 square foot house in a predominant gated community in Fort Worth, where they still reside today. What I will say, based on learning about the family through people who knew them, is that there are some kind of Murdoch family vibes going on. We'll kind of get into that in a minute, but that's kind of the vibe that myself and Sheridan kind of kept picking up on. A lot of Garrett's childhood was spent traveling with his little brother's competitive baseball team. I guess at a very young age, Griffin showed a lot of promise in baseball, and he was actually even drafted to the Atlanta Braves in 2016. For school, Garrett attended Southwest Christian School. He was there from kindergarten through high school, graduating in 2014. Based on accounts from those who knew him, Garrett was the type of person that always seemed to be in a relationship, and he would kind of jump from one to the next if things weren't like going in his favor. An ex-girlfriend of his described Garrett as very sweet and attentive during that honeymoon phase, a lot of love bombing, and then that gradually became controlling and possessive and aggressive, especially when he wanted something bad enough. He didn't understand what the word no meant, and allegedly was constantly pressuring her to do things that she wasn't comfortable or accustomed to. For her protection, we're not going to go into specific details, but it was just apparent that Garrett was just kind of like one of those guys, like one of the old part of the old boys club type guys. In high school, Garrett was known to use his fake ID to purchase alcohol from a local gas station. As I had mentioned, where there are some similarities into the Murdaugh case, we definitely saw that. And allegedly, he constantly was putting passengers who were riding with him in very dangerous situations as he was intoxicated and drinking. And some of those people felt like he seemed to like get off on like that, making people uncomfortable, kind of pushing the boundaries and having people scared and like asking him to stop. Back to Sara and Garrett's relationship. After meeting on that St. Patrick's Day in 2019, Sara's parents knew that the relationship was pretty serious based on the fact that she brought him to a family gathering that spring to introduce him to everybody, and their first impression of him was quite positive. They saw a well-dressed, nice young man. He was respectful, and he seemed to be smitten by Sara. From that point, he became a regular at the Hanson residence. He made an effort to get to know everybody in Sara's family, but particularly he became very close with Sara's dad. Based on the effort that he was putting in to impress Sara's family, they truly believed that she was safe with him, especially because he would make those statements like that he would always promise to protect her. Throughout their relationship, Sara and Garrett enjoyed spending time with their friends and families. They would do things like go to Dallas Stars hockey games. They liked going to the lake. And in January 2020, Sara moved into Garrett's home in Fort Worth, Texas. On the outside, everything kind of seemed to just be falling into place. They were making their home their own. They were starting to plan their future together. But then small red flags started to present themselves. Weeks before Sara was murdered, she and Garrett spent the 4th of July weekend at a friend's lake house. Everything was perfect. Everybody was having a blast. A bunch of food. They were drinking. They were playing games, watched the fireworks. And the plan was for everybody to stay to avoid, driving after, indulging maybe, and also because the roads are not always the safest on a busy holiday weekend. As the night wore down, Sara went to bed. She was feeling tired. Everybody said goodnight. But then not long after, she came back downstairs with her bags, saying that her and Garrett were just gonna go back home. The situation was really confusing and a little bit unnerving. Sara was fine minutes before, just going to turn in for the night. They were still going to be there the next day. And then all of a sudden she comes down, says they're going home. So they're trying to convince her to stay, wondering what's going on and wondering what happened upstairs that just made her change her mind. Something that stood out to one of Sara's friends is as she's reassuring them that everything is okay, Garrett is standing beside her, kind of overseeing the conversation, but not saying anything. And ultimately, she and Garrett ended up leaving. And she just told her friends, I'll text you when I get home and let you know that I arrived safely. They later found out that the reason Sara had to leave and go home so abruptly was because Garrett thought that he heard people talking about him. And so he went upstairs, woke Sara up, and insisted that they leave right then and there. The next morning, there were some more red flags for those that were there at the lake house because they all received text messages from Sara and Garrett apologizing for leaving so abruptly the night before. Garrett's text said, "I'm sorry for how I acted last night. I was upset and asked Sara if we could leave. I feel really bad for leaving so quickly, for not being able to say goodbye to everyone, and that I wasn't able to control my alcohol better." To her friends, the text kind of seemed very, almost like not scripted, but like he had to do damage control prior, like he sent these things before. It's not the first time something like this has happened, and that he's kind of using alcohol as an excuse for his irrational behavior. Things happen though. People aren't always on it, and we all have bad days. So it sounds like the decision was to just kind of, accept the apology. You may know maybe not the best side of somebody one night, but her friends weren't wanting to, hold it against him and decided to move on forward. So on the night of July 17th, 2020, Sara and Garrett met up with their same couple friends from the lake and decided to do a double date at Topgolf. And it was there that they mentioned that they wanted to take like an end of summer weekend getaway at the Margaritaville Resort Casino in Bossier City. Sara was to begin her fall semester at UTA on Monday, August 24th, 2020. And so the friends decided to all go out together and celebrate that weekend prior. But Sara and Garrett planned on going to Margaritaville a day before their friends, and then their friends would meet them. So they went out on Friday, August 21st, and their friends were going to come and meet them on Saturday, the 22nd. Sara asked her mom if she could dog sit for her that weekend, and her mom agreed. So on that Friday morning, she dropped off her dog Milo, and none of them could anticipate or know that this was going to be the last time that they would see each other. At that drop-off, nothing seemed to be amiss. Sara did casually mention that she was upset that Garrett was at home packing, and she was a little bit frustrated because they were sharing a suitcase. He didn't want her to have her own suitcase. They were just going to share his, which, given just like full context of like this entire story, just kind of makes you wonder like what's with the control of the suitcase? Like why do you need to have control of what's being packed, where it's being packed? Doesn't make sense, but I digress. Besides that, it seemed to be a perfectly normal day. Sara and Garrett arrived at Margaritaville at 3 p.m. and after getting all settled into their hotel room, they stopped off at the casino first. Not long after arriving, they befriended two girls, and Sara is described as having just a really great time. While Garrett was playing at the tables and losing money, Sara was really excited. She actually even made a call to her family to tell them that she had hit her very first penny slot jackpot. Her family said she just sounded so happy, full of life, just like the ray of sunshine that she was. And they were happy that she was having this opportunity to just kind of let loose, have fun before the new semester was about to start. She also texted her friends that were arriving the next day, just letting them know that the vibe was really exciting. She was having a lot of fun and she couldn't wait for them to get there the next day. Which, when you're processing this story as a whole, is really heartbreaking to know that in just a few hours, Sara was going to be gone. I think it's important to mention that also, in addition to announcing her big jackpot news to her friends and family, Sara also mentioned that Garrett was in a pretty foul mood because he had lost a bunch of money gambling and she had won and he wasn't happy about it. After leaving the casino, Garrett and Sara decided to join the two girls that they had met earlier in the hot tub. And when they got to a hot tub, there was a couple that was already there. So they also kind of like joined in. And according to that couple, everything seemed fine. Everybody seemed to be having a good time, conversating, drinking. Sara and Garrett had mentioned that their friends were going to be joining them the next day and were even asking about like local food shops and things that they could do in the area for when they arrived. And yeah, the vibe was, it was good. It was positive. Nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. And it stayed that way until everybody had to leave the hot tub at 8 p.m. when it closed, because this was like 2020 COVID times. Around 8:30, that couple that they had met in the hot tub had seen Garrett and Sara again, and they were kind of, like stumbling down the stairs, and it looked like they were headed to dinner. This seems to fit the timeline because the last known communication from Sara's phone was on August 21st at 9 p.m. She had just texted her family that they finished having some pizza for dinner, and then the plan was just that they were going to turn in for the night. Shortly after, Margaritaville Resort received a phone call of a noise complaint coming from Sara and Garrett's room. Even though the caller had stated that they believed this was a domestic disturbance, the resort failed to go and check on things. Next, around 10:15, Garrett is allegedly seen outside of the resort causing a disturbance. It was a much of a disturbance that led to a call to the police and him resisting arrest and being taken into custody for a 24-hour hold to evaluate his behavior and ensure that he wasn't a danger to himself or others. Now, due to strict COVID policies that were in place at the time, when Garrett arrived, he was instructed to wash and sanitize his hands when he arrived at the jail. So, I mean, just based on somebody who watches and researches and knows a lot about true crime, and I'm sure the same emotion is for you right now, who you can also have those similar feelings and knowledge. Like, it just like made me go like, what do you mean? Because yes, there was like just like a disturbance outside, so you don't know like the full context of the backstory and that there was a call placed for possible domestic disturbance, and now you're washing away potential evidence, DNA or gunpowder residue. While that was going on, Sara's lifeless body was laying in her hotel room after allegedly being shot and killed by her boyfriend, Garrett Benson, who was the last known person to be in that room with her. Now, something I have a lot of questions about is at approximately 2 a.m. on August 22nd, a eyewitness was checking into the Margaritaville Resort. And at the same time, Garrett's father, Todd Benson, and his brother, Griffith Benson, arrived at the hotel. This reliable witness said that they overheard Todd asking for access to Sara and Garrett's room. And Todd was also heard requesting for security to accompany them because he, quote, didn't know what they would be walking into. About 15 minutes later, that same witness saw police and paramedics arrive at the resort and be escorted to Sara and Garrett's room. Inside, Sara's body was discovered at 2:17 a.m. with a gunshot wound to the head, and she was officially pronounced dead at the scene. I think the biggest question for me, and I'm sure for you as well, is why Todd and Griffin showed up at the hotel at 2 a.m. For context, they were not on vacation with them, nor were they scheduled to be on vacation with them, and they did not live nearby. At the time Sara would have been murdered, they would have been 3 hours and 45 minutes from their home to the resort. That timeline would match up with receiving some form of communication or call at around 10 p.m. in order for them to arrive at the hotel at 2 a.m. And it just makes you think, like, what would have been said that would prompt a father and a brother to jump in the car and go to the resort that Sara has been murdered at. Now, I wanted to know about the camera situation at Margaritaville, just to try to see if there was any video timeline of Garrett's steps, and I was enraged to find out by my dear friend who helped put this case together for us that the family doesn't have many answers in terms of what or if there's anything that is picked up on cameras, because Margaritaville shut down all forms of communication with Sara's family from day one. It's my understanding they have allegedly been banned. And I guess it's public knowledge that the resort is, it's very successful, that, the resort casino pretty much funds a lot of that entire area. Therefore, I guess, funding, supporting equals control in most cases. It sounds like they just do not want to be a part of any form of bad publicity. So they've really taken a hard stance on anything that involves any form of justice when it comes to Sara. I think that there's two sides to this. One, it could be that they have been instructed not to divulge a lot of information just to protect the integrity of the case. That happens a lot. It can be really frustrating for people who know and love the victims of crimes. They can kind of feel like they're being left in the dark for a lot of things. But we also have the other aspect of this to consider, that there is definitely some responsibility on the resort's part by not responding to that noise complaint that was coming from Sara and Garrett's hotel room. That could also be why they're just kind of staying tight-lipped about this, to not interweave and interject themselves. I think that it's kind of irrelevant and only a matter of time that, they'll have to answer as to why nothing was ever followed up in that room. Kind of leaning in from that as to where we are today, I just want to also touch on to show and give some insight as to how frustrating and disheartening this can be for a family. On August 23rd, 2020, Garrett Benson was charged in the second-degree murder of Sara Hanson. After being arrested, Garrett's family attempted to get the bond request that was $500,000 down to $50,000. The judge denied that request, so it remained at $500,000. And ultimately, on July 21st, 2021, Garrett was released on a $500,000 bond with zero restrictions. Sara's family did request that after Garrett's release, he be required to submit regular drug and alcohol testing. That request was ultimately ignored. He was released to his family. He is living in his childhood home with his parents and kind of allegedly going on with life at this point. The trial has been delayed multiple times. Garrett has been seen around the Fort Worth area attending Dallas Cowboy games with access to the field. He's been able to travel without answering to anybody. And he's even been seen on multiple dating apps. And I think this is just really important to highlight because not only is he on dating apps, but allegedly has been using false names on the apps as well. He was able to be a part of family events like his brother's engagement party last year and wedding this year. And while things like that are going on, you have to remember that Sarah's family is dealing with things on their end. One of them getting her death certificate corrected because the death date was wrong. Without having that, they couldn't give her a proper headstone. So just to kind of put everything like that into context and allow you to kind of lift the veil and see what's going on behind the scenes, it's really, really upsetting. Sara was laid to rest on August 29th, 2020 at Arbor Lawn United Methodist Church in Fort Worth, Texas. And due to the times that we were in 2020, the church only allowed a limited number of people to attend in person. So they had to arrange to have her celebration of life live streamed on Facebook. To date, the video has been viewed by thousands, and two of Sarah's favorite songs were played, Holy by Florida Georgia Line and Dancing in the Sky by Danny and Lizzie. Sara also has two memorial benches. One of them is in the city of Fort Worth in the park, and the other is at Parker County Courthouse. And its intended use is for victims and others, which is unheard of, but she just truly touched so many people's lives. One of the things that was brought to our attention, and a really good example of the unexpected mounting costs that families need to pay for, is the disparity of crime victims' compensation benefits, or CVC, from state to state. Each time Sara's family has to travel from Fort Worth, Texas to Bossier City, it's about a 450-mile round trip. You have to factor in gas, food, hotel stays. They have received little to no support. There was an amount that was contributed towards funeral expenses, but that's it. And they've been told each time that they go to these court hearings expecting to be ready to go to trial, and then when it doesn't happen, they're just told, oh, like, yeah, you didn't need to come for that one. I mean, you couldn't keep me away from any hearing if this was my child or my family member or friend. One example that was given was May 2023, this year. This would have been the second time that trial was to start. Sara's mom had decided to rent an Airbnb just to save costs on the number of hotels for the amount of people that were coming. Once they all arrive, it's the first day of court. They find out that the defense has requested another continuance, and it was ultimately granted by the judge. In that case, Airbnb still needs to be paid for. Gas needs to be paid for to have gotten there to get back home. In some cases, people purchased flights to go. Basically, the simplest way to say it is that family members are just at the mercy of a frustrating and, in my opinion, sometimes broken system. I'm sure you can feel and understand the family's frustration. I'm so frustrated hearing and learning about this so often. You can't help but feel like, victims' loved ones are constantly re-victimized. And it's these types of cases, like these examples, that just reiterate that. I'm including the link to the Justice for Sara Hanson Facebook group in the description of this video. And I'm begging you, please, please, please head over and just go and show the family some love and support, especially right now. These upcoming weeks are probably extremely stressful, emotional for the family. They really have no idea until they get there, basically, what the outcome is going to be. They've gone on 3 years of waiting for justice, having continuance after continuance, and just money being thrown at the court to keep somebody from going to trial. As of right now, the second-degree murder trial of Garrett Benson is scheduled for Monday, November 6th, 2023 in Bossier City. The family needs all the prayers, all the good vibes that this time, this date sets, and there are not going to be any more delays in Sarah's case. It will almost be a year from the first delay in the case. The first trial date for Sarah's murder was November 28th, 2022. The next was May 8th, 2023, and now we're at November 6th, 2023. I'm going to finish off with something that Sarah's mom said at Sarah's celebration of life, and the way that Sarah's loved ones want her to be remembered. Sarah was an angel on earth, and our princess is an angel in heaven. All right, you guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please go over to the Justice for Sara Hanson page on Facebook. I look forward to seeing all of your love and support there. You guys have no idea how much that means to families, how much it just like keeps their strength going and them holding on for another few weeks, you know, just while they're waiting on pins and needles. Right now, this time is so stressful. So just that love and support and knowing that they have a lot of bad A Sippendales behind them, it can be comforting, okay? All right, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. I love and I appreciate you all so much. I will see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.